Bob, he, him from England. Bob is a theist. Bob's
Hey,
statement
Bob.
is, I believe, hi, Bob. Your statement says here that you believe in God for a good reason. How you doing, Bob? I hit the button, right? Yeah. Bob, you there? Hello?
Yes, I'm here. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, there you are.
Hello. Yeah, how you guys doing? All right.
I'm doing pretty good. Bob, can I ask you a question really quick before we get started? Because I want to rule something out really quick.
Yeah, go on.
What shape is the Earth, Bob?
I'm a Muslim.
I didn't ask you that. I asked what shape the Earth is.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't understand that. Can you repeat, please? Sorry.
What shape is the Earth, Bob?
Oh, what shape is the Earth?
Yeah. Weird that it's taking this long, Bob.
It's a circle. That's what I said. It's a circle.
Is it a sphere or is it a circle?
I think
like flat.
I think sphere type. Sphere, yeah, it is a sphere circle type, yeah. Not flat, not flat.
Okay, cool.
No.
I'm just double checking because we have a different dude from England who I'm pretty sure their name is Bob as well, who is a flat earther that calls in with like different weird names and shit and tries to do. So I just wanted to rule that out and get it out of the way. Still weird that it took that long, but that's okay.
I've spoken to you before, Forrest Gump. I like your name. It's a nice name.
Oh, thank you.
But,
you sounded familiar as well, which is why it was kind of creeping in my suspicion. I wasn't sure. I think I was conflating you with somebody else.
I think, yes, we did spoke, but I'm not the other one that you're talking about.
Righteous. Okay, cool.
So, because I'm a Muslim.
With that out of the way, tell me what your good reason is for believing in a God.
You know, I believe like nothing can exist without something, and also based on our religious text, I think because of the Quran, I think that's enough for me to know that God does exist. I've listened to the previous caller where he says about scientific problems in the Quran. That's not true. So I think the Quran having prophecies, scientific facts, and many other things like science have discovered recently. It's one of the reasons why I believe Islam is the truth and God exists. And of course, I believe nothing can exist without God being there. This is the two reasons I believe in.
So,
all right. So, Bob.
You go first.
Yeah. So, Bob. So I hope you appreciate that these are the same exact things we hear from Christians, right? Like pretty much word for word. Just replace the Quran with the Bible, right?
Yeah, I do believe Christians use that. Yep, I do believe that.
Okay, so for a moment, put yourselves in our shoes. We have a Muslim on one side telling us these things about the Quran and why they believe. And then we have on the other side a Christian giving us the same exact arguments for their holy book. From our point of view, we don't have anything else to work off of. How can we possibly choose which one's correct? Whether either of them are correct, they both could be wrong. Can you give us something more why you believe that a God exists than the Christian does?
Oh, yeah. For me, you have to look at the religious scriptures. That is a very fundamental statement for me because two books.
And Bob, one more thing, Bob, one more thing before I'm going to let you continue. But one more thing, as you go through these next sentences, imagine a Christian saying this, because what you just said there is exactly also what a Christian would tell us. You have to go to the scriptures. You have to examine the holy book. So as you go through your thing here, imagine you're a Christian telling us this and how different or not different that would be from our point of view. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, this is what I was about to say. But the Christian Bible, if you read the Christian Bible, with all due respect to Christianity, I don't even want to talk about Christianity, but I'll give you why I believe it's false. There's a lot of problems in the Christian Bible. There's mistakes.
Sorry, Bob. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to cut you off here. You proving Christianity wrong does nothing to help the argument for Islam. So attacking Christianity is not the way you're going to go. You need to present us arguments for Islam, while also thinking, okay, is this something a Christian would also say to us? So please don't attack Christianity. I already believe Christianity is wrong. All right.
Mhm.
Okay,
Please try to
okay,
convince
that's
us that
good.
Islam is right. Yeah.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so when you get I believe your name is Eric. I think I've spoken to you before as well, right?
You might have. Yeah.
Eric,
Yeah.
Eric. So when you have a man 1400 years ago that cannot read or write, unlettered, yeah, and he comes up with prophecies in the Quran that came through, yeah, and you have statements like scientific facts, which is confirmed by science by people like Professor Keith Moore, Dr. Bukhail Morris, and many others who did a conference about this, the Holy Quran, and they assessed it to see in their own eyes and believe that there's no man can have this except that he must have received it from someone who knows things. So science themselves have admitted it. This is on YouTube, admitted by science, that you yourself look up to, the people you look up to. So where do you think he got these things from, these information? Because he cannot read or write, and on top of that, you
Mhm.
don't have any equipment back in the day to be able to find out these things until recently.
So
What about all the things that the Quran gets wrong? Are those reasons to not believe in it? If the things that it gets right are reasons to believe in it, are the inaccuracies in it, historical and scientific inaccuracies, reasons to not believe in it?
Well, people always say the Quran's got mistakes, scientific mistakes in it.
I'm one of
That's
those
not
people.
true. Okay, now it's up to
Okay.
you to show it to me now.
So then let's just ask, did the moon ever split in half?
We Muslims believe that yes, it did took place. The miracle of the Prophet Muhammad, when the Arab pagans, the Meccan pagans, asked him for it, the he did
what's the
split the
evidence
moon.
that the
Yeah,
moon
but
actually what's the evidence that the moon actually split in half? Because we have no evidence that that occurred.
right, miracles are something that happened. Like let's say like a physical miracle that time that people that witnessed it at the time, they're the only one
So
that
you
can.
so you have no evidence that the moon actually split in half.
No, I
What
don't have
about
it.
the
No.
flood? What about Noah's flood? That's in the Quran, I believe. Is a worldwide
Yes.
flood something that actually happened?
Well, the Quran doesn't actually say it's a worldwide flood. It says it's a flood, but it doesn't actually say it's worldwide. We don't know whether it's worldwide or it could be a limited area. So we don't know about that.
Let's
It's not
check
like the
on that.
Bible story where it says worldwide. Yeah, honestly, it doesn't say worldwide. Honestly, it doesn't say that. I have read the entire Quran multiple times. Okay, and I can guarantee you that it doesn't say that there. Noah definitely is mentioned in the Quran and the story of the flood, but it doesn't
Mhm.
state whether it's worldwide or limited area.
So
So
let's see here. We do have just what I'm finding just from my googling here on Wiki Islam. Um, the gates of heaven poured out water. The earth gushed forth springs. That's very much the same as the Bible. Behold, there came a command from the fountains of the earth gushed forth. Embark each kind of each kind, two, male and female of your family. Those blah blah blah. So you got two of every kind of animal on a boat, and you have some sort of major flood happening. So is that, are we in the same place there?
Well, yeah, it says major flood, but it doesn't say all over the world. It doesn't say that.
Right. Okay, cool. I'm just double checking. I'm making sure that we're talking about the same thing, and I'm seeing if I can find anything that says that it is from the whole earth, and I'm not finding anything right here.
No,
Elsewhere in the Quran,
no, it doesn't
whether
say that.
earth mentioned together, it means their entirety, blah blah blah. We'll come back to that one just for funsies. Um, what about? Let's see here. Uh, there's this person here. Everything created in ants can speak human languages. That's an interesting one. States that ants are capable of speaking human languages. Ants may communicate by vibrating their abdomens. Oh, what is this? Hold on a second. 27:18. What does that actually say?
Yeah,
They came out in the
it's
valley
the
of
story of
ants. Said,
Solomon.
"Oh, ants, go to your nest, lest Solomon and his troops crush you without noticing." Yeah, apparently the ants are able
That's
to
right. That's right.
understand people and recognize them. Is that something you believe in? That the ants are able to understand what we're saying?
No, 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 no. Look, the story of Suleiman, who's King Solomon. It's him understanding the ants. The ants don't understand him. It's him understanding the ants.
So a
What
man can
evidence do we
Okay,
speak
have
to
God
that?
him.
gave him a gift. God
So
gave
what
him a
evidence do
gift
we have
to be
that's
able
that?
to.
What evidence do we have that humans actually understood what ants were saying?
Well, humans don't understand animals, but there's something called a miracle that God gives to His prophets that is unique. Yeah, that human
Yep, here
beings
we go.
don't do
One of
except that.
one of the ants
Hang
said
on, let
blah
me
blah
finish.
blah, and it explains that the ant is talking and what the ant is saying.
Right.
I mean,
So
let, let me
so Bob,
let me just finish, please.
Bob, go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
go and wrap up then.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, but basically, we believe that God gave prophets to do things. We don't believe these things are scientific because they are unique to the prophets of God. So Solomon was given a gift to be able to understand ants, but that doesn't mean that all human beings will understand it. That's just a special gift to him that God gave him, where he can understand ants speaking. But the ants don't understand us speaking. But that was
Are
specifically for only to Suleiman, King Solomon.
Does sperm come from between the backbone and the ribs?
Ah, I keep hearing these things many times. In the Arabic word, it doesn't say sperm. It says water, not sperm, fluid. That's what it says. It's
Mm.
not sperm.
This
The
is
Arabic word
from
for
a drop
sperm,
emitted.
it's nutfa.
So then let me just ask you a follow-up question then if that's the way you want to go with it, because that's the general consensus that I get from like most Muslim callers. But like let's say that you're right and they're wrong and it actually means water. Are humans made of water in that way? Do you get some water from between your backbone and your ribs and that's what makes a human?
I don't believe that, no. But on in the Quran verse, it says water. And I've seen scientific people who have spoken about this to confirm this. Water does actually come between the backbone of a human and that kind of
Oh no,
stuff. But I
you
don't
have
really know
water all
much
over your
about it.
body.
Yeah, yes, I know that. But I just want to clarify. I'm not like an expert in science. I'm going to be honest. But people seem to think that's talking about sperm. It's not sperm. It's water. Just to clarify that. And I don't know much about it, but people always misrepresent that verse in the Quran.
We created man from a drop. This is, I don't know, maybe this is a different translation or something. This is from 76:2. Verily, we created man from a drop of mingled sperm. Maybe you say it means water. In order to try him, we gave him the gifts of hearing and sight. This is from 86:5-8. Now let man but think from what he has created. He is created from a single drop emitted, proceeding from between the backbone and the ribs. Surely Allah is able to bring him to life. So, like, a person is created from a single drop of water which emanates from between the backbone and the ribs. Is that a reasonable scientific statement in your opinion?
Um, like I said, I'm not an expert in science. I have seen people in science who've actually confirmed this is true. So I can only
Did,
go with what they say.
who
To be
in
honest.
science has confirmed
Yeah.
that people are made of a drop of water that comes from between the backbones and the ribs? Because
No,
I have
no,
a
no,
reason to
not
believe that
made,
that's not accurate.
not made of, but comes from it. This is what it says. Comes from it.
Right.
You know.
But like when we talk about where people come from, usually we're talking about the fusion of gametes, of a sperm cell and an egg cell, which produces a zygote, which then develops into an embryo, right? Like that's not like you don't have to be an expert in science to get like that vibe, right? That's not the way it
Yeah,
always works, but in humans it pretty much is.
yeah. But also,
Yeah.
but
So
also like,
which part of that
yeah. Go on.
comes from between the backbone and the ribs?
This is what I said. Like, to me, I'm not an expert. So, but because you said it's sperm, I have to correct you. It says fluid.
Right.
So I don't really know
I'm
much
willing to
about it.
give
But
that to
people always
you.
say it's sperm. Yeah.
Even if it isn't sperm, no part of that involves any fluid from between the backbone and the ribs at all. Can we agree on that?
I've never
And
I've
I
never
can
heard that, but
and
I'll
Bob,
have to
Bob, I
I'll
can
have to check that.
Bob, I can Bob, I can tell you this too. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that I'm childless because I had a vasectomy about 14 years ago. I went through all the medical documentation, learning all about it. I talked to the doctor, none of what happens down there comes from between a rib and a spine.
Yeah.
It's all much, much lower than that. All the factory
Hmm.
for everything that's made for that is not up between a rib and a backbone. But here, okay, here, listen to this, okay? I
I
wrote
have
down all
more
the reasons you yeah,
when you're
I
ready.
wrote down all the reasons okay, well, actually, tell you what, Forrest, go ahead and go through your stuff there because I wanted to wrap this back up to where we started.
Oh, you're fine. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize. I was just gonna
No
keep
worries.
going because I've got a list of like scientific inaccuracies in the Quran here, and like this,
Yeah,
there's this one which says it's about like God saying that God sends down water from the sky and He gives fruits and blah blah blah, as in chapter 16. Here's a lesson for you: in cattle, we give you a drink from their bellies, from between waste and blood. That's
yeah.
pure milk, refreshing to the drinkers. Is milk something made between waste and blood?
What? What? This is a camel. You're talking about a camel?
It says cattle.
I don't know.
It's
I don't know. That's
yeah. Well, that's
that's the
fucking.
thingy because like,
I
I can
do, and that's
I can
incorrect. Is what I'm saying.
So here's the thing.
but like
Here's the thing too. Like we could sit here for hours and hours nitpicking over any perceived scientific inaccuracies in the Quran or in the Bible, but that kind of loops back around to my initial challenge to you earlier, Bob, when I asked you to justify Islam. But the reasons you give us, think from our point of view as if a Christian was giving us these reasons. And I wrote all the ones you gave down to us. You said that the Quran 1400 years ago came from someone who couldn't read or write, but still had revelation and transcribed this into book form. You said prophecy. You said that the Quran is full of scientific facts. You said that there are things in the Quran that no man could have invented on their own. You appealed to miracles, even though you can't verify any of them. And then you also said that God gave prophets these insights into science. All of
not
those are
science
things
to be
Christians
able not
also okay, well,
sorry not
God gives special insights to people that he favors, all right? Not necessarily scientific, but God gives insights into things that people he favors.
yeah
These are all
yeah
things that Christians also present to us. All right? Christians claim that the gospel writers were illiterate fishermen and that they went through training and received divine revelation and 2000 years ago wrote down the gospels. There's prophecy. They claim there's scientific facts in the Bible, mainly with the earth being a sphere, various other things that they claim to be scientifically accurate. They said that they say that there's things in the Bible that no man or woman would have known without God's help. There are unverified miracles in the Bible, and also that God gives direct divine revelation to people. Like you'd have given us nothing that the Christian won't give us. So think
yeah
about
but
all the reasons why I reject. Think about all the reasons why I reject those explanations from Christianity, and just apply it right to your religion, and you'll know exactly where
okay.
I'm at.
I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but I mean, for me, science is not. To be fair, it's not even a criteria for me. However,
Okay.
um, however, you do. It's not a criteria for me to accept the Quran because I believe science do make mistakes sometimes, and then later they will find out that oh, we got it wrong. It's not actually that. It's this
All right.
way. But my
Tell you what.
if
Let's
let me finish, please.
let's
I'm not going to take
let.
forever. Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Yeah, so I've watched this conference of a bunch of scientists, at least five of them, who actually sat down and actually went through the Quran and say that this is actually accurate. And then they said there's too many accuracy in the Quran. Even though I'm happy they said that, I still don't see them as a criteria because they could come later and say, oh, this is not actually right. This is the right way. But it's
Okay.
very, very fundamental for science to come and actually say, oh, these things in the Quran, it's impossible for somebody to know about it. It's on YouTube. It's on YouTube if you don't believe me.
Well,
So
when you
if
want to
Okay,
get
science,
thank
accurate
you. I've
science
finished.
information,
Thank you.
YouTube is the way to go.
yeah. So if science is not a criteria for believing the Quran and Islam, fine, let's just strike it from the list. Let's just drill down into one of these things because we don't have all day to go through the entire list. Let's just drill down to one of these things. You said that
Yeah,
Muhammad
that's
couldn't
fine.
read or write. You said Muhammad couldn't read or write.
That's right.
1400 years ago, received a revelation, and this got transcribed into a book. Okay, so the Christian claim is that the gospel writers were illiterate. They were illiterate fishermen from Judea, and they eventually wrote the Gospels. All right, what is your explanation for the Christian claim about the illiteracy of the writers and how those things got written? Like, what do you think Christians say to explain that?
I'll say to them, show me in any Christian Bible that states that,
I'm asking you.
or any
I'm
any.
not asking you what you would ask them. I'm asking you what do you think they would answer you with?
They'll probably give me the answer that you just told me, but I'll challenge them and tell them, show it to me where it says
I didn't
that
give
in
any
your book
answer.
or any scripture.
So
Okay,
so
I would
can't
say, yeah, go on, yeah, go on.
all right. So imagine you're asking a Christian, how do you explain the fact that the gospel writers were illiterate yet wrote the gospels? What answer do you think you would receive from them?
I think they would say it's the Holy Spirit.
Divine. Okay. Do
Yeah,
you accept
divine,
that
Holy
as a
Spirit. Yeah,
response? Do you
yeah,
accept that
yeah.
as a response? You do. Okay. What about
Yes, I
Joseph
do. Yeah.
Smith and what about Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon? Do you think that was also Holy Spirit directed? Because it's the same claim.
Well, if they claim that, they have to be able to actually um, back up with some scientific facts, which you yourself accepted
Right.
in the Quran. You yourself accept, so or some like prophecies, because we have the prophecies in the Quran that came through the Bible prophecies. There's some of them that are not accurate. I've seen them. So I don't
All
know
right.
what
So
Joseph
you're
Smith believes in. I don't know what they believe in.
a lot of crazy stuff because it's Mormonism. But here's the thing, though: you are given the same exact reasoning that Christians would. You're simply saying that, oh, Holy Spirit, divine revelation. There's prophecies in the Bible because you talk to a Christian, every single prophecy in the Bible has been fulfilled, or nearly every single one's been fulfilled, and the ones that haven't been fulfilled
Now
yet
there's
are about to
mm,
be fulfilled. Like that's the
well,
claim.
there's
You're making those same exact claims, and I'm asking, how do I differentiate between the two of them?
there's one prophecy in the Bible where Jesus was speaking. I don't believe Jesus said that because I believe Jesus is a prophet of Islam. I don't believe he's made this statement, but Christians believe it. They say Jesus said during the lifetime of his disciples, he's going to come back in his second coming. And it's been 2,000 years later and he's not back. That is a clear cut false prophecy there in the
Why do you
Christian
think?
Bible.
Why do you, what's your explanation for a false prophecy creeping its way into the Bible?
A false prophecy is when you make a statement, something to come true, and it doesn't come true.
Yeah. How did those get into the Bible?
How did they get in? Probably. I think a lot of it is actually inspired by God. Some of it is actually happened, and then they already wrote it
God
down.
inspired false
And some of
prophecies?
no. I said the true ones because there's true prophecies in the Bible. I
Yeah,
accept. I know
I'm
that.
talking
I've
about the false
seen them.
prophecies here. So I'm talking about
Oh,
the
okay.
false
The false
prophecy here,
prophecies.
Bob. Yeah.
Okay, the false prophecies are basically people making up their own stories about a prophecy.
Okay.
This is what I believe in. Yeah.
All right. So when a Christian says, I think that these are false prophecies in the Quran because I think people were just making up stuff, how is that not a valid explanation for what you see in the Quran?
Well, that one they'll have to explain it like the way we do because what the Quran does actually prophesize that the Muslims do actually take over most parts of Middle East. People don't know this. It does actually prophesize this, and Muslims were very small in number, about hundreds of them, when the Roman Empire was actually the one ruling, and then you have the
Yeah.
Persian Empire, and then you
So
have the Arab pagans who were
the Bible also prophesies that the Israelites are going to lose their land, regain it, then lose it again. And then God's going to
Hmm.
restore them
yes,
again later on. And you'll have Christians who say, "Yeah, that's been fulfilled. We saw that. We saw
Yeah.
the Israelites get driven out in 586 BCE, and then again in 70 CE, and then we saw them restored, in the 1940s." Like you're going to have the same type of prophecy and hand waving by Christians with the Bible. How are you not just doing the same exact thing?
yes, that's what I said to you. There are some prophecies in the Bible I accept that are true. However, the false ones, that is problematic. This is my point here. I don't have a problem with the one that's fulfilled. I did acknowledge that already. All right, but the ones where Jesus was actually apparently saying that he's going to come back during the lifetime of his disciples, and he's not back yet for 2,000 years later. That is not
And you know
something
what their
from God,
explanation?
you
So,
know.
so Bob, do you know what their explanation for that is? That he spiritually returned, because when they realized it
Hmm.
didn't happen, they came up
What?
with, po- yeah, that's what Christians say. The return was spiritual, or there's a dual fulfillment to the prophecy. The initial fulfillment was a spiritual return, when I think
Yep.
Well,
Pentecost occurred or something. But my
it
point
doesn't
is
make
that
sense.
my
Also,
point is
he
that
appeared to the
you can,
disciples earlier on, right?
yeah. My point is that
Yeah.
people can post hoc rationalize prophecies all day to make them work. How do you know you're not doing that here?
Because the prophecies happen during the lifetime of the prophet. By the way, the Quran is
And you
not
know this
changed
how?
because
So
I know
the
this because
prophecies, the prophecies in the Quran were fulfilled in the Quran.
no, we're fulfilled. I didn't say in the Quran. Yes, in the Quran we're fulfilled. Yeah, some of them, not all of them. Some of them.
Uh, so
Oh,
some of the
that's
prophecies
why I
in the
know Harry Potter
Quran,
is true as well.
yeah.
There's
That
So
others.
how is
prophecy
that
There's
not
came true
others
at the end
spiritual?
of
about
Harry
to
Potter.
come. No,
Because
there's
what would
others
stop?
about to
So
come.
Bob, let me ask you, Bob. What would stop a writer? Let's say a person's writing the Quran, whether it's Muhammad or somebody else. What stops them from saying, "I'm going to lay out a prophecy in the beginning of the book, and I'm going to fulfill it near the end of the book"? Like, what stops a person from doing that?
I don't understand your question. Sorry. Can you repeat, please?
O
I don't
Okay.
understand you
So you said that
honestly.
some prophecies are laid out in the Quran and then later fulfilled in the Quran, and then there are some prophecies that were prophesied in the Quran but were fulfilled after the writing of the Quran, and that's what you're interpreting now. So we have 2 sets of prophecies. So the first set,
Hmm.
the prophecies that were written and fulfilled in the Quran, how do you know the author didn't just write it that way, doesn't just make it up? Kinda like the same way we write fantasy and fiction novels today, where we have foreshadowing and alliteration and such, where not alliteration, foreshadowing, where a writer can structurally write something and then make it happen later on in their own book. That doesn't make it true, right?
Well, yeah. First of all, I didn't say the other ones didn't come yet. Basically, when the Quran was revealed, it was written. It was revealed orally. It wasn't revealed writtenly. Okay, so people memorized it. You
How do
see.
you know that?
So
That's written in the Quran too, right? The revelation and the the oral telling of the Quran to Muhammad, or the inspiration he had, and then how he had it written down. That's in the Quran, right? Like, how do we verify any of this? We can't verify these things occurred. The same way we can't verify these prophecies actually were fulfilled and not just the invention of some writer writing this a long time ago. We don't have evidence
well,
to support
if
these things.
well, well, if you look at it nowadays, even today, the Muslims do memorize the Quran. So it's not like something that's made up.
What is
You know,
what does
uh,
memorization have to do with whether what was written was actually true or not? I don't see how this is
because
connected.
because you're saying, how do you know that's not made up? Like that's not written down. So I said to you, it's impossible for the Muslims to actually change it and put it in their own way. Because when the Prophet Muhammad passed away, there was no written book. It's all memorized. So people have to come together
Right. So
and actually
if it
write it
so
down.
if it was wrong at the beginning, it would still be wrong now because it hasn't changed.
Yeah.
That you're not addressing what he just asked you.
Yeah, this is actually the same exact problem that we have with the Bible. We could sit here and say, okay, the Gospels, which were written starting in about 60, 70, and the last Gospel written about 100, 110, we could accept, hypothetically, just for the sake of argument, we can accept that from when the Gospels were penned to now, they were perfectly preserved. But that does nothing to tell us what happened in the 30, 40 years before they were penned, from Jesus' death in 30 to when the Gospels were first being written in about 60 or 70. The preservation of the writings tells us nothing about what happened to those stories in between Jesus' death and them being penned. So I'm asking you the same exact issue here. You are claiming that there's oral tradition and these writings and that they were perfectly preserved. I'm asking you, how do you even know the stories are true to begin with?
Because we have like people that have testified to it. And
How do you
and
who
also we can
testified and
also
where?
hang on.
Oh, no, Bob.
We
One thing
have
at a time. Who testified and where?
the disciples of the Prophet Muhammad there.
Okay, is that in the hadiths?
Yes.
Okay, how do we know those are genuinely and accurately portraying history to us? Why don't they just fall in the same category as a book that could have been made up?
I mean,
Like
look,
how do
it's
you
always
verify the
difficult to.
truthfulness of this? Go
It's
ahead.
look, it's always difficult. Look, I must admit, yeah, it's always difficult to prove something that happened thousands of years ago, hundreds of years ago. That's always difficult. Actually, you can't prove it. But if you look at the reliability of it, even up to today, Muslims memorize the Quran all over the world. Every single country in this world, there's at least more than 200 people memorize the Quran. Every single country in this
Can a
world.
lot of people
So
memorize something and it still be false?
yes, yes, I believe that.
Okay. So memorization has nothing to do with us demonstrating whether the Quran is true or not, or the Hadiths are true or not.
No, 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 no. I'm not saying that one. I'm not saying that one. You're saying how do we know like if these stories are not made up? This is your point. So I said to you, no, it's impossible for us to make it up because we have an oral tradition where no one can change it. Like if you go today in a mosque and get the Quran and
The
try.
original stories, Bob. The point is that the original writings are made up. That's my proposition to you. I'm going to tell you right now. I think the original writings were made up by somebody. How do you show me that they aren't? How do you show me that they are in fact an accurate portrayal of history?
So this is what I'm saying. Like when the Prophet was around and he passed away, there's like a few thousands of the Muslim Sahabas who memorized it. So no one
I
can
just
make it up. No one can make up
Yeah.
this
Okay.
book.
So we're going in a circle here,
I have
Bob.
I have a different thing. If you're when you're ready, because I don't
Go
want
right
to
ahead.
interrupt you. Like
No, go
I'm
right ahead.
so fucking. I really appreciate how much patience you're having with this, Eric. As I usually try to do what you're doing and try to be really patient. It's really annoying when it's been 30 minutes and we're saying the same thing over and over. And like what I don't
Yeah.
think you're understanding, Bob, is that
Yeah.
what Eric has tried to get across to you over and over and over and over now is that if something is wrong, it doesn't matter if it's memorized and passed on and and kept to what it's supposed to. It's still wrong from the beginning. And nothing like I kind of checked out a little bit on trying to talk about the actual Quran and stuff when you told me that you actually believe that the moon was split in half and all these things, because clearly that line of question isn't going to go. But then also Eric pointed out that everything you've said about the Quran and about Islam is the exact same thing Christians say about Christianity, and every criticism you have of Christianity is no better than Christians' criticisms of Islam. And so at the end of the day here, what we have is we have this group of people over here who believes in a magical carpenter from Bethlehem, and we have you and your group of people over here who believe in a magical pedophile from Mecca. And you're both saying the same nothing. And we're here trying to like actually find a reason to believe what you're saying. And all you're giving us over and over is, well, I believe it and other people believe it and we memorized it and everybody else is wrong. And none of that is actually a good enough reason to believe in a God. Do you understand?
Right. I
So
understand what you're saying. So basically, honestly, like then to be honest, there's not much I can do because I think you guys are very difficult in terms of giving evidence. So honestly, I think you guys.
So
are
let
nice
me ask
people.
you a different question
No.
then. Let me ask you a
Yeah,
different
go
question
on.
then, Bob. If this
Yeah,
God
go on.
is real, what kind of person is he? Is this
Well,
God all powerful?
yes,
Is this God all knowing?
that's right. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Here's a fun fact that's actually a true thing. Every single day in this world that we live in, 25,000 people starve to death. 10,000 of them are children. So, why do you think it is that this all powerful, all knowing God made a world in which it is necessary that 25,000 people, 10,000 children every single day need to die in a terrifying and painful way?
Right. My answers here is that before God created us, He actually informed us we're going to come to this world. He actually gave us a permission to come to this world, and all of us accepted the conditions to be in this world. So we pre-know that we're going to come to this world, and suffering is going to be in this world. Yet we still accepted to come to this world. So we are responsible for whatever problems we have in this world.
So the children who starve to death, it's their problem. They deserve it. They did it on purpose.
I'm not saying they deserve it. What I'm saying is they accepted to come to this world. So the consequences is them and all of us.
Right. So they accepted that they were going to come to a world that is corrupt and broken, and therefore them starving to death is really just their problem. They chose the possibility of that consequence, and they just have to deal with it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like for instance, you you sign a contract to go to somewhere, and you know there's consequences to it. And if something happens, then you are responsible for it. And so
do you think that it would be reasonable today? Do you think it would be reasonable today if I were to open up like a club? Like I buy a big ass warehouse and I have like this nightclub going on in there. And I have every person who walks into the club sign a liability waiver that says you might be raped and you might be murdered and you might be starved. We might hold you prisoner. We might stab you. We might do all these things. And they sign that and they go in there. Do you think that I could like present that to people and be like, hey, it's totally reason. Yeah, I know she got raped inside, but like, hey, she signed a waiver. It's okay. Do you think that would be a reasonable thing for me to do?
I would say if you implement laws for people to avoid such actions, and also if they do such things, they are to be punished. And if they do it, then you are not to be blamed because you've implemented laws there, and also there's consequences to their behavior. Let me ask you a different way.
Let me ask you a different way then.
Let me finish, please, what I'm saying. Let me finish.
Well, you're completely avoiding what I'm actually asking, so it's not worth my time to let you finish because you're not answering the question that I'm actually asking. If I'm walking down the street, and I see someone being sexually assaulted in an alleyway, is it reasonable for me to then look at them and say, you know what, though? They knew what they were getting into when they decided to be born. Guess there's no reason for me to do anything about it and walk down the street. Would I be a good person if I did that?
No, you would not be.
Why not?
Because you've got the capacity to stop them or to help the person that's been raped.
Exactly. And now here's a question. Who's more powerful, me or God?
God is more powerful.
So God has infinitely more capacity to step in and help this person than I do, and yet he chooses not to. So does that make God a good person?
Get involved with these things. So it's up to the people to know that rape is wrong. And if they do it, they get executed under Islamic law.
Exactly. So if I see somebody raping somebody, I just say, you know what? They should know not to do that. It's not my problem. And I just keep walking, right? And that makes me a good person just like God, right?
Hey, Bob, did God make this? Did God make the world it is today on purpose?
Yes. Not obviously, not what other human beings created. Yeah, go on.
Wait, what did we create? Like, okay, for instance, let's think about it this way, okay? A fawn, a baby deer dies in a forest fire, absolutely absent of any human interaction, anything. All right, a baby deer dies painfully in a forest fire. Did God set that in motion or not?
God didn't do that. No, he didn't cause that. No.
Then who did? Man didn't cause it because there's no men around. So what caused that?
If people are careful enough and not set the place in fire, then you wouldn't have the baby been burned in it.
Lightning struck a tree and started the forest fire. There were no humans involved, and a baby deer died horribly, got burned horribly, and took several days to die in agony. Humans were not involved. Who's responsible for that?
No one is responsible for it.
Didn't your God set things in motion except for the things that humans caused?
Yeah, but that's like that's something that just happened.
Humans didn't cause this. So if it's a dichotomy here, either God caused things to occur or humans caused things to occur. Humans didn't cause this deer incident to occur. Who is left to blame?
I would say I'll go back again to my answer is that we as human beings were told by God the consequences of this
Humans were
world and
not
we
involved
accepted
in
it.
this.
Humans
Bob,
were.
Bob, please answer my question honestly here. Humans were not involved in this scenario. Who else
I know
possibly
that.
could be involved?
I understand your question. What I'm saying is
Okay.
I'll go back to
Why
the
aren't you answering it?
pre-existence agreement. I am answering it, if you allow me to, please. So what I'm saying is, yeah, before we came to this world, God already warned us about the consequences in this world, about these things.
Humans aren't involved.
Yeah?
It's not a
And
we.
we,
There's Bob. There
Did,
is no we in this
are
discussion.
you saying?
Humans are out of this discussion
oh,
here.
okay, so,
We're talking
okay,
about the deer
you're
in the
talking about a
forest.
deer. A deer. All right, okay,
Yes.
sorry, excuse me. Sorry, I'm still thinking about humans. I'm so sorry about
So
it. Yeah,
Bob,
you are right.
humans
Deer,
humans
okay.
did not cause the deer incident. A deer was in the forest. Lightning struck a tree, caused a
Mhm.
forest fire. The deer died horribly. Who's responsible for that?
I would say that even though the Quran doesn't say animals were given pre-existence to come to this world, I would say that, but it doesn't also say that they were asked. So no one knows what the contract between God and animals is. No one knows. So they also may have a
The
contract
deer
to be in
agreed.
this world.
Yeah. Do you think the deer signed a contract with God before it was born?
Well, this is all I could think of. Yeah.
Do you see how we're looking at these explanations and we're just shaking our heads, going, this doesn't add up to anything serious. Like we're being respectful, but honestly, we can make all kinds of jokes about this because this doesn't line up with anything that makes sense, especially when you're considering an omnipowerful, omnibenevolent, omniscient God. Let me ask
Right.
you another
I
question,
mean,
then we'll
I
wrap this
understand.
up. Let me
I
ask
have
you
a
another
couple
question
more
to
too.
wrap this
Whenever
up.
you're done.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
I'll
go
forego
on.
my question. Go ahead, Forrest. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just going to ask you. Like we just to go back to what I was talking about earlier on. I said that if I see a child being raped, I think I should step in because I have the power to do so. And God, who is infinitely more powerful than me, has all that more reason to step in and do something about it. And that if he doesn't, that makes him a monster. Would you agree with that statement, Bob?
No, I don't agree with that statement.
Okay, so why is it that God gets a free pass and doesn't have to use his unlimited power to stop pedophilia?
Right. Because all of us have got the capacity to know what is wrong and right, isn't it? Yeah. So why are we
So
choosing to
God just
do it in
doesn't
the
know
first
what's
place?
wrong or right?
Of course, God knows what's wrong and right for us.
So then why doesn't he do something that's right? Why doesn't he do the right thing?
Well, first of all, God has given you a mouth to speak and eye to see. What about that one?
So here's a question. I have two children, right? I don't really, thank goodness, but I have two children here. And one of them goes off and starts raping somebody, and I don't do anything about it. But then I tell the other kid, well, I taught you what's right. Why didn't you stop the other kid? You should have done it. Does that make me a good person?
No,
No. So
no.
God gave you the capacity to speak up and stop somebody from raping children, but he could still do it too. So it doesn't really matter that he gave you the ability to stop people from raping children. He could also stop people from raping children, and he chooses not to. So why do you
Yeah, I
think
mean,
he's a good person?
look, Forrest, I absolutely you and Eric, I absolutely understand where you're coming from. If God did
Do
not
you?
warn us about the pre-existence, then I would have agreed with you. But he did warn us about these consequences, and because we are fools, all of us, all human beings, accepted it.
So
So we are to be blamed about these things.
Is
And
there?
also,
Let me let me ask you a more
we
direct
have the
one.
capacity as well to understand what is right and wrong.
Let me ask you a more direct question. You have the capacity to understand what's right and wrong. Is there any situation where it would be right for a man to have sex with, like, say, a 9-year-old girl?
Um, if the girl has reached puberty, yes. And we know females reach puberty from age 8 to 13.
And there it is. And there it is. So the reason why I'm so happy you're very honest about this. So the reason why it's okay. No, shut the fuck up, Bob. The reason why it's okay for God not to stop pedophiles is because you think pedophilia is acceptable. As long as a girl's reached puberty, it's okay for a grown man to have sex with her. So that's why God doesn't stop pedophilia, because God thinks pedophilia is okay. That's why Muhammad, for example, married a 6-year-old girl and had sex with her at 9, right?
Right, Forrest. If I'm not saying like in a place like America or UK or anywhere where the legal sex of age of consent is 16 in the UK. I don't know America.
Motherfuck the legal age of consent. Where in the world is it ever okay to be a pedophile? I'm not going to let you finish, Bob. Shut the fuck up. Where is it okay to be a pedophile? There is no context where you can say it's not okay here, but over in this country, it's all right with a different law, with a different reason. It's because, you know, she's hit puberty, so it's just fine. It is never okay to have sex with a child, period. Does that make sense?
Forrest, what is the definition of a pedophile?
An adult who is sexually attracted or having sex with children.
Okay, so no, pedophilia means to sleep with a girl who hasn't reached puberty. This is what pedophilia.
No, it doesn't.
In some countries, or in some countries under the age of consent. Like in the UK, if you sleep with a boy or girl who is under the age of 16, then
that's
you are
not what it means at all, Bob. That's not what it means at all. You can't reach around and say, well, this country defines it this way, and this country has a different law than that country, and try to square the circle of what you're actually saying. Because what you actually just said was, when I asked, is it okay to have a grown man have sex with a 9-year-old girl, your actual answer was, kind of depends. And that's fucking gross.
No, I didn't say that.
And the fact that you're going to defend that, actually it's exactly what you said. You dishonest fuck. That is exactly what you said. And what it really comes down to is the fact that you're worshiping a dude. Shut the fuck up, Bob. Nobody's talking right now, dude. We need to hear you talk. The actual thing that you said was it depends on whether or not she's hit puberty, because then it's totally fine. And again, we're coming from the context where you're in a religion where you're, praising a guy who did exactly that. I believe her name was Aisha. Was his youngest wife, married at 6, consummated at 9. So, yeah, dude, we're not going to fucking continue having you justify pedophilia here because it fits your religion. That's actually the breakdown here. The reason why you're not able to criticize your God is because you're just as fucking sick as he is.
Right. Are you finished speaking?
I was kind of finished with this conversation, if I'm perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, we're gonna wrap up here, Bob. But anyway, Bob, just to put everything we just discussed in a package. I see 2 possibilities in front of me. I look at all your claims. I see 2 possibilities in front of me. Okay, there's more possibilities than 2, but I'm gonna just consider these 2. One is everything you say is correct. The supernatural exists, a God exists, and everything that the Quran says, the prophecies and everything, are all true. Or I lean towards a naturalistic explanation and I say, okay, what is more likely? All of this is true and the supernatural exists, or this is the product of people. These were stories written down by people we have no real reliable record about. They describe things that happen and then talk about fulfillment. We have people who memorize these things in great numbers afterwards, who are looking for explanations for the prophecies that weren't fulfilled. They're the ones that will rationalize science and post hoc fit in facts and massage things and simply dismiss things that are inconvenient, like, oh, the moon got split in half. We have no evidence. It was a miracle. Like, what's more likely? Everything in that book is true. The God is real and the supernatural exists. Or what's more plausible? All of it was made up by people, and for generations now, people have been working and bending themselves backwards to make it work with the reality we live in. What do you think I should choose based off of this conversation?
I honestly like what I believe in, which is God.
I'm asking you. God. I'm asking you what you think I should choose and why. Should I believe it's all is true, or should I lean towards naturalistic explanations?
That's what I'm saying. I think
you just started talking about what you believe. I'm asking you what I think I should believe.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I believe that you should choose what we believe in, but also you have to do investigation as well, more investigation, because
we just did a whole hour of investigation here. We just did a whole hour of investigation here, and frankly, the explanations we got were very unsatisfying.
No, I said not from me, but of course from other Islamic sources as well and other places. I'm not a Muslim scholar or stuff like that. I just know some things. That's it. I definitely take my religion. Definitely, no doubt about that. I also want to clarify to Forrest that I'm not saying pedophilia is okay. I'm not saying that. I said from age 8 to 13, that's when girls reach puberty. This is what I said. That is a fact. That isn't UK NHS website. Americans websites
Hey, Bob,
accept this.
Bob, I don't give a
over
fuck what the
the
website
world.
says. Is it okay for a grown man to have sex with them at that time? Is it morally right?
If they reach puberty, yes. Yeah.
So you believe that
This
as
is what
soon
I
as a
believe
girl
in.
hits puberty, it's acceptable for a grown man to have sex with her.
I mean, it doesn't always have to be at nine exactly. You can always wait later. But
If a girl hits puberty at 9 years old, is it acceptable to you that a 50-year-old man has sex with her?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, fuck you, Bob.
But this is all right. Okay.
All right, Bob. We're gonna go ahead and drop the call, Bob.
That's
Thank
the
you
long
very
and short
much
of
for
it.
calling. Yeah, well, yeah, have a good evening, Bob.
Hello, I'm Jimmy Snow, executive producer for The Line and avid candy eater. Hey, if you'd like to support this channel, you can do so now on Patreon or as a channel member with tiers specific to supporting specific shows and hosts. And it also supports our ability to expand programming going forward. You could also leave a super thanks down below, get a little special highlighted comment, and I'll tell you what, you could hit like and you could hit subscribe. Now, here are some video suggestions so we can fudge that algorithm. Go with one of ours. Forget everyone else on YouTube. I'm begging.